All right, Beyond the Gates fans, today's episode was brought to you today by the word insecure. Say it with me now, insecure. That's literally all I can really say about the way Bill and Hayley were carrying themselves in this show. I mean, sheesh. This has been an interesting week. I mean, more like a slow burn compared to last week, but what can you really say? And before moving forward, you know the drill. Make sure you take a moment to hit like and subscribe. Follow me on social media. Links are in the description below. Hit that bell icon and select all. That way you don't miss out whenever I post content on the channel. And, well, let's dive in. So, Bill is on the phone with someone trying to find any sort of... Oh, God. This dude is down bad to the point where he is resorting to getting people to dig up any sort of dirt from Andre's closet and putting some sort of tail on a mark on him. And the thing is, Bill is sure that, he's like a so-called player. So there's no doubt in my mind that he's probably stepping out on Danni. And he almost slips up. By saying Danni is his wife, but it quickly corrects himself. The mother of my children. And I want Bill out of my ex's life for good. And that's when Hayley walks in and he hangs up the phone quickly. And the funny part about this is he's trying to find dirt on, this guy is cheating on the mother of my children, not knowing that they have an open marriage. This is pitiful. So, she's yet again pissed, and that's why this episode is kind of meh. 7 out of 10. No, actually 8, because Danny's satisfaction at Hayley acting the way she is, okay, I'll give it an 8 out of 10. But yet again, insecurities, yada, yada, yada. I overheard you. You're still trying to check in on Danni. You need to set up boundaries. The 50th time we've heard this song and dance. Now, Keegan, I believe is the name of the individual that Bill was on the phone on. And from there, she's thinking Bill's micromanaging a class action suit, and Bill's like, "Oh yeah, that's what it is. I'm just worried about that." Because, she heard the conversation, and initially I'm like, "Oh great, she overheard the Danni and Andre thing," but no. She's like, "Oh, your man is just busy with work, and the boundaries he needs to put up is once you clock out, you're all mine." So that's when Hayley's like, "I don't know, this hardworking demeanor is part of why I love you in the first place." So they kiss, and even though she's like, "Hey, you're my happily ever after, let's have sex now," a text comes in, and it's Keegan who has pinpointed Andre's location, and he's at the diner. So that's when Bill is like, "Oh, I actually need to go to a meeting," and he just bolts out of there. And that's when she decides to go behind his back and call Caroline. Does Bill have a meeting? No, he doesn't. You know what? Yeah, I got him now. Oh, yeah. Man, I swear, the insecurity of both of these individuals put together is astonishing. So, Danni and Andre were actually in bed earlier getting it on. And he goes on about how beautiful she is. And she calls herself Danielle Richardson. I don't know why. That has a nice sound to it. Danielle Richardson. And then they go at it once more. And the crazy part is she's just now getting back to knowing who Danni Dupree is, which he's fine with. That's interesting because it really throws it back to the earlier sex tangos these two would engage in. And Danni was reluctant to really get involved with Andre because of the fact that she couldn't really find who she was, and Andre reminded her who she was. So it's just refreshing that Danni is getting back to a point where she knows herself. But it is kind of sad that it's during your marriage when the two shall become one, not just in sex, but in terms of lifestyle. So while on the one hand, it's great that Danni is getting back to who she was, but not really. Look, I'm old fashioned. I just look at marriage a certain way. but I know it's not the same for other people. But I just feel like when you get married, it's not that you have to completely give up who you are. It's just that it's not just about you anymore. So when I hear Danni saying things like, ooh, Danielle Richardson, but I'm just getting back to knowing Danny Dupree. Then why are you still married? Oh yeah, we know why. It's because you want to get under Bill's skin. Now, she does give him credit that, she tells Andre, he's part of the reason that she's getting herself back. And even though, I feel like we got something real, it's like I've never felt so free at the same time. She's like, yeah, I agree. So he's like, how about some kale salad? But she wants something from the diner. What'd she call? Duck barbecue sliders? That sounds good. I'm more of a chicken man myself, but that's when he jets and she thinks about Bill kissing her. And really? Just really? So let's go over to the diner, shall we? Where Bill intercepts Andre as he's, picking up the food. So Bill calls him a gold digger, but Andre's like, yeah, you're wrong. I got my own money. It's like only a damn fool would kick the most beautiful woman to the curb. And that's when Bill warns him about hurting Danni, but Andre's like, actually, that's more your department, if you remember correctly. And I love that. So while Bill and Andre are exchanging words, and I love how, while Bill is like 3 feet taller, Andre stood his ground. Hayley pops up over at Danny's place because remember, Caroline said there was no meeting. So, and look, Hayley was wrong for this, but I am not going to condemn her because Danni has done the exact same thing multiple times at Bill and Hayley's house. I think the most egregious time was early in the series when, if I remember correctly, didn't she flirt with the security guard to give her the code so she can go into the house and leave that so-called gift, which we were all convinced was a bomb, and then she got drunk as a skunk and passed out on the couch and then tried to fix things up. Yeah, didn't she break their wedding photo or something? Yeah. Yeah. So, but two wrongs don't make a right, but this was really funny. So, Danni asked her to go to a meeting school, but that's when Hayley starts yelling, Bill! Look, it's 3 in the morning. Well, no, it's 1:33 in the morning. I'm not trying to yell. It's like, Bill, get down here right now. And Danni is just loving it, calling it karma, and ask her what excuse Bill gave her for not being around. So Danny's like, well, if Bill's not here and Bill's not with me, I wonder, don't you think you ought to be thinking about who he could be with? The past is prologue, Hayley. Maybe it's Caroline. And then Hayley calls her a B and demands that she stay away from them, which is funny because it's like the woman who was the mistress causing the divorce, who got married to your ex-husband, is now telling you, the ex-wife, to stay away from your man because you got one. Isn't that rich? So after Hayley leaves in a huff, that's when Danni herself is even like, where did Bill go to? Yeah. So after the exchange at the diner, Bill comes home and wants to take Hayley up to the bedroom, but she's no longer in the mood and just goes to bed. He's like, well, what the heck is that all about? And then when Andre gets home with the food, he and Danni eat, and she talks about how Hayley dropped by because she had misplaced her husband, and that's when Andre's like, yeah, he was with me at the diner. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, that's pretty much it for there. And speaking of awkward dining moments, over at Uptown, Vanessa is shocked to see Donnell and Jacob there, and Joey takes the blame about, them being there together. It's like, I hijacked Vanessa in the parking lot and thought she can use some company at a time like this. And that's when Donnell brings up Doug's gambling, and Joey says, even good men can get lost from time to time. And Jacob feels bad for letting them view the footage because obviously, it would mess anybody up to see somebody in their final moments, especially when it's in a not so flattering view, from Doug at that dang table, getting drunk, gambling away that watch, and then losing it and stumbling away. That's awful. So Donnell thought that he could make sense of what happened by seeing the footage, and that's when Joey orders him some food. But Donnell's not sure he can eat, but he appreciates Jacob for talking to the bartender for him. Drake, the bartender slash dealer, and even though Joey hopes that Donnell can get answers, he doubts that the dealer has what he is looking for, and he admits he knows what this is like, because his mother's recklessness led to her death because of plastic surgery. Man, that is a massive callback, because didn't Vanessa, when Nicole first saw Joey and Vanessa interacting at the country club, this was under the guise of, yes, you're the best in town when it comes to finding the right houses for people, and I'm trying to find a home for my elderly mother, even though she doesn't want to admit her age. She could use something, with, bars around the house to support her, and, a driveway that accommodates, a wheelchair, things like that. And when Vanessa urged Nicole to back off, nothing's going on, I'm just trying to help him find a home for his mother. That's when Nicole told Ted, and Ted is like, Joey Armstrong's mother died trying to get plastic surgery. What? And because of her age, she was told that, plastic surgery at that age comes with more risk, but she didn't care. And as a result, she died. And then the doctor doing the surgery split town, out of fear. So great callback. And that's when Joey mentions that similar to Doug's vices, his mother was addicted to surgery. And that's when he learned that she went to a doctor who didn't know her medical history, and only then was able to move on. So I don't know if there is some truth to this, but it just seems like, given that Joey Armstrong's mother demanded the surgery, it makes sense that, a doctor, maybe even if they knew her medical history, because she probably went to a bunch of doctors who said no. So then she went to another doctor that eventually said yes, or someone she could strong arm by mentioning who her son was. And as a result, she got the surgery and didn't make it. So Joey then tells everybody that he's going to let them have some time alone. So mother and son embrace and, have a moment. So it's funny because as soon as Joey gives Vanessa a hug on the way out, that's when Jacob looks over at Donnell like, you see that, man? It's like, they said a lot by not saying anything. So Joey leaves the uptown, and that's when mother and son have a conversation about how wonderful Doug was. And that's when Jacob tells Donnell that Doug was a good man before he finally leaves too. And Donnell feels guilty about drinking after burying his father. And what if he ends up like him? And Vanessa mentions, like, your father was an alcoholic. And that's when the conversation shifts gears to how fragile Deanna is. Wait, is it Dina or Deanna? I forgot. But either way, that could explain why she didn't show up to the funeral, because I believe that Vanessa told Joey that she adored her father. So, So Vanessa attempts to give Donnell a pep talk in order to, help him out of this pit of despair right now. And he tells him that, I don't know. Well, actually, Donnell kind of like goes into overprotective mode because of the fact that Joey is a bit too chummy with his mother, and he doesn't feel good about an outsider taking up the slack. And Vanessa's like, Joey's not an outsider. He's just a friend that I can rely on and I trust. Bro, Donnell, if you only knew. If you only knew. But he's going to find out. This is a smart kid. So we go over to Nicole, and she stops by her mom's house to talk for a bit. And Vernon's actually out teaching late. So Nicole wants to help Martin save his family. And I'm thinking to myself, don't you need to kind of deal with your own family first? But whatever. So Nicole mentions Leslie, and in terms of just seeing her, feelings are always running the show. And that's when Anita can see that she's questioning the state of her heart, not necessarily Martin's marriage. And it's almost like Nicole is redirecting her attention from where it should be, like, oh, my marriage is over, so let me try to save my sons, where, I don't know, And I'm not absolving Ted because, like Vernon said all those weeks ago, you spent more effort trying to form and cultivate a relationship with your long lost daughter who you did not know existed, who played a pivotal role in ruining your marriage. I don't know. I feel like Nicole is, hey, she is understandably in her feelings, but I just feel like she is hitting the divorce button as a knee-jerk reaction as opposed to truly taking the time to explore her feelings. But it's been months, Jeremy. I know, but I'm just saying. So Nicole asked if it's okay to be in a loveless marriage, and that's when Anita thinks it's better than I don't know. A loveless marriage versus pining after Bill. And they both can agree that Danni is not one that could ever shut her heart down forever. And she wants her daughter to learn love again and notices Carlton is into her. And Nicole mentions that she's interested in him, but I don't know. I just feel like I don't bit judgmental, if you ask me. I mean, I'd rather be alone than in something. I don't know. Better to be alone than make yourself look like a fool over someone who doesn't want you. And better to be alone than to be in a marriage that's loveless. Maybe that's just my way of thinking. I don't know. Sheesh. I'm 34, but still, even I'm like, I can do bad all by myself. All right, let's shift gears here. So I believe, according to my notes, we're almost done. My bad. Yeah, we're almost done. So over at the country club, it looks like date night's going pretty well. Martin and Smitty are there, and Martin's impressed when Smitty orders his favorite drinks, mentioning that he remembers, and Smitty's eyes are on the future. And it feels like a first date all over again, and Martin notices Smitty's new sweater and cologne. Wait. Yeah, that is a new sweater. And it's actually the fact that Martin is in the outfit that they wore on their first date from way back then. And they discuss how their kids would feel if they saw him there. And they wave at a couple Martin knows, and he refuses to talk because they're on a date. So he realizes that at this point, Smitty's had to wait a long time for him to have a moment like this where it's all to himself. So I love the fact that Martin takes a moment to say, hey, you know what? I know those people over there. I'd love to go over there and talk, but this is about us. So it's little baby steps showcasing that this man is trying to show Smitty that he is a priority. Now, Martin mentions how he sees himself in love with Smitty in their future and getting back to sharing their love of politics and kids. And he mentions how their kids, sorry, my mouth is dry. He talks about how their kids would be in terms of them being a dynamic duo of sorts, basically being on a united front for the sake of the kids. But that's when Smitty brings up how he could have gone further in his career if it wasn't for Martin kind of sidelining him. And Martin worries that, well, if this isn't enough, then I might actually lose you again. And yet again, Smitty's only concerned about the lies, and Martin wanted to tell him, but it's just the fact that he knew the lies would make his husband look at him a different way. So that's when they come to an agreement about not taking each other for granted. And I'm being present with you right now. It's just that Martin hid some massive parts of himself, and Smitty lost parts of himself. And that's when Smitty says that he's ready. He wants Martin to come back home. That was actually an interesting dynamic here because Smitty lost parts of himself when he was regulated to becoming a stay-at-home husband, when his career was really about to take off. And Martin was like, yeah, we need to be a one working parent household so we can raise some great kids. And Martin hid away parts of himself after the 2-year incident, and that's very compelling. So it seems that these two are starting to get back on track, and I wonder if these two can try to make things work. Can Nicole and Ted? Well, those are only couples I kind of care about. So there we go. But hey, that was Thursday's episode in a nutshell. I'm about to grab me a bite to eat, and you'll get 4 episode reviews at one time. So thanks so much for tuning in. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next video.